They did not know who Mr. Modi was.
One day Ram wave, one day anti-incumbency concerns.
Ultimately, dukaan chalana hai, and this is the best way to go ahead. We are back, and let's put the spotlight on the state of Madhya Pradesh, because why is it interesting and why we are talking about it is that if the Congress has won on fighting a hyper local election in the state of Karnataka, when it comes down to the campaign in Madhya Pradesh, is the Congress truly fighting a hyper local election in Madhya Pradesh as well? And why I say that, and Rajdeep, I want to bring you in on this. If Bajrang Dal, a ban on Bajrang Dal is being mulled by the Congress in Karnataka, Bajrang Sena is joining the Congress in Madhya Pradesh to fight the election. When I say hyper local, because the political dynamics of Karnataka are very different. Madhya Pradesh, 91 Hindu majority, 6.8%, let's say about 7% Muslims. So clearly the Congress, the whole mohabbat ki dukaan is different. Ultimately dukaan chalana hai, and this is the best way to go ahead.
In Madhya Pradesh, politics has always revolved around who can capture that Hindu vote bank.
Because it's 91%.
Yes, but let's also be clear. The Hindu vote bank is not some homogeneous vote bank. There are OBC votes, there are SC and ST. Particularly the SC-ST vote influences, some would say, about 120, 130 constituencies out of 230. And that doesn't happen in many other Hindi heartland states, none that I can recall, where these two groups will play such an influential role in the final verdict. So within this Hindu vote bank, there are attempts made to woo different groupings within. And I'll tell you an interesting story. 1993, I was 28 and, like you, wanting to be at the heart of the action, not semi-retired now like I am today.
I'm glad you think I'm 28.
Yeah, she wants to be. Yeah, okay, but 1993 election, the first big election held in the aftermath of the Babri Masjid demolition. Governments had been dismissed by the centre and elections were being held late 1993. And I was in print, Times of India, travelling across, pen and paper in hand, with an old stringer journalist from Indore.
And you got that election wrong.
Yeah, you're running ahead of the story. The fact is I crisscrossed the state, particularly the Malwa region and the Mahakoshal region, areas some of which are bordering my home state of Maharashtra. And it was fascinating as we travelled across the state. Not an easy state, Preeti, because in those days there were no 4-lane or 6-lane highways. Every time you travelled on a Madhya Pradesh road, your back had you had a back sprain because there were khaddas everywhere. So you're a lucky.
I covered the last election in Madhya Pradesh.
See, you're in the TV age. You have all the benefits. Live view karo, ye karo. I had none of that.
You look good. Imagine. Yeah, you didn't care where your hair was, what color your shirt was.
I had
to take care of all of that and report.
I actually remember going through one particular area where we were told, "Raat ko mat jaiye. Wahan bhil log hote hain. Wo kuch bhi ho sakta hai." So that's of course no. But even in other parts, even when you're traveling through some parts of Malwa, at least that time it was said, "Raat ko mat travel kariye." Anyway, to cut a long story short, I travelled for about 2-3 weeks, at the end of which my editor Dilip Padgaonkar rings me up. So what's happening? I said, "Sir, there seems to be a Ram wave." Because everywhere you went, particularly in the cities, Indore, Ujjain, even Khandwa, the towns of Madhya Pradesh, it appeared that everywhere you went, in the marketplace, the conversation was around Ram. And the general feeling was that the BJP will benefit from it. Babri Masjid has been demolished. This is the peak of the the aftermath of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Surely the BJP will win. And it was a strong BJP state because, Madhya Pradesh has been a bit of an RSS gud in that sense. And I wrote this copy, Ram wave sweeping across MP. Last day of the campaign, after I had written this speech, we were in Indore. And on this grand stage, the Congress had organized a huge rally. There was Arjun Singh, Madhav Rao Scindia, Kamal Nath, Digvijay Singh, the entire galaxy.
Your Ram wave piece had already gone to print.
Yeah, it had already gone to print. That was supposedly the last. But then takes this rally on the last day. And with me was an old Madhya Pradesh stringer who was travelling with me from Indore, Mr. Jhajaria. I still remember him. I think he's no longer with us. And Mr. Jhajaria tells me, "Rajdeep, dekhiye, Congress ek saath aa gaya hai." And when the Congress comes together in Madhya Pradesh, it is a formidable force, especially in the 90s, because all these leaders were all ministers and major leaders at the time. Number two, while in the towns the talk was about the Ram wave, what I misread was that as you went outside the town into the more remote areas, and there are a number of such far-flung areas in Madhya Pradesh,
It's largely rural.
to the Adivasi belt, to the to areas beyond the big towns, there was a silence, and I think somewhere that silence sometimes conveys a sense of anti-incumbency, and I must confess I didn't pick it up then. But because Mr. Choudhary had told me, I actually wrote a revised copy 2 days later. The Times of India carried both happily. So I covered my tracks. One day Ram Wave, one day anti-incumbency concerns. But in that Ram Wave election of 93, UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh all go to the polls. In UP, what happens? Mulayam Singh and Mayawati, then Kashiram come together and form an alliance, defeating the BJP in
It happened, yeah.
in its home state. In 91, before the demolition, the BJP gets a majority with Kalyan Singh. Then you have an election in the peak epicenter of the Ram wave. The BJP doesn't win. Mandal trumps Mandir. Then you have Rajasthan, where the BJP, I think, finds itself again in a situation where it doesn't have a clear majority. It needs the support of independents to form a government. And you have Madhya Pradesh, where Digvijay Singh comes from nowhere to become the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh. So, there is a sense, that's why religious polarization, religious politics has its limits. So, where I used to do a show called Follow the Leader kind of thing, spent 24 hours with the leader, and the leader I did that election with was Uma Bharti. And I'll never forget, we are in Bhopal, and we are, we've done all our, she's just done a political rally, and we are tracking her, we are in the same car together. Suddenly she says, Roko, driver, Roko. Gaadi, hard brake. Why? An elephant was about to cross the street. Uma Bharti gets out and does a full Mr. Modi style Sakshtang Namaskar before the elephant. I still have that picture. It must be somewhere in the archives of NDTV. There is Uma Bharti doing that sort of Namaskar before the elephant. Now remember, long before Yogi there was Uma.
Yeah.
And in the sense she was open about her sort of her Hindutva affiliation, her saffron affiliation, never hid it in any way, and was showing it there on television. And then that same night, shoot over where she cooked this great meal for me, great cook Uma Bharti. At about 4 in the morning, I get a knock on the madam, aapko bula rahi hai. 4 in the morning. Why? She wanted to go and meet her Dharam Guru, who lived about 100 kilometers.
There are so many gurus. There are maximum
all
number
kinds of gurus. So everybody has. Kamal Nath has his gurus. Kamal Nath says, I am the biggest Hanuman Bhakt. And he's built the highest Hanuman statue in the country. Now he's having one. Now he's about to complete a Shivaji statue.
If you remember, the first iconic visual of Rahul Gandhi in a Janayu doing puja wasn't so much at Somnath Gir, but actually came in from, because it happened in Gujarat as well, it came in from Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain, with Kamal Nath, where he's sitting and doing the puja.
It's interesting, when you go at that election, when you went to Kamal Nath's office, there was this computer Baba sitting outside.
Yes.
They also had a Mirchi Baba, and they both, when they won, were given positions equivalent that of a minister.
So it comes with a guarantee card, which is, we will give you exactly the 5 guarantees which they gave, give and take a bit here and there, which they gave in Karnataka. Priyanka Gandhi announced that.
Sure, but under the Ladli scheme, even Shivraj Singh Chauhan gives a monthly stipend to women. True. So I think that battle will sort of almost...
Electricity, gas, all of that.
Yeah, I think the BJP's problem in Madhya Pradesh is, remember, out of the last 20 years, they've been in power for the entire period, barring 2, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan...
And it wasn't their mandate last time.
The
mandate was the Congress's mandate.
It was a tough election, 3 or 4 seats here and there.
But they're also infighting right now.
That's
all
right.
of that's going on.
Lot of sharp...
Yeah, you have Mr. Tomar against Mr. Narottam Mishra versus Jyotiraditya Sindhya.
But just to give our viewers a sense, sometimes, when I ask Kamal Nath about this sort of Hindu streak in him, he says, in Chhindwara, don't forget, Chhindwara is just an hour or 2 hours away from Nagpur. But, Kamal Nath is an interesting character. In those days, I would travel with him in the chopper. He was one of the first leaders who had his own private Span Airways that he had, and he would sort of, look down. Unlike
lots of corruption allegations also have come with
that. The difference between a Kamal Nath and, Kamal Nath is more in the Shiv Kumar mode.
Right.
Since you spoke about Karnataka, much more resourceful, wants to focus on organization. Does he have that common touch? is the huge question. There have been, of course, corruption charges that the BJP has made against him,
Right.
but they've never acted upon it. And that's one last thing I'll tell you. Madhya Pradesh is a bit like those old states where the opposition and the government had उनकी एक क्या कहते हैं?
गठबंधन.
मिली भगत. Milli bhagat was the word I was looking for. उनकी एक मिली भगत हुआ करती है. So whoever comes to government, make sure that they keep the opposition in good humor. So most of the opposition ministers and all often sometimes even retain their government houses, and the leader of the opposition is well protected. It's not a state where the opposition boycotts the tea party of the chief minister. So Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Mamaji and Kamal Nath.
Mamaji has many people, against him in his own party as well. But that's all that we have. But he was talking about the roads, and I just want to add to that. 2019, I was doing a show called The Motorcycle Diaries, and we'll give the picture out because I have the picture. It was at some 9 p.m. at night, and we were in Pansing Tomar's village, which is in the Chambal belt, the back of beyond. And we had both my tires were punctured because the roads were so bad, and not just that, the car we were in, 3 of those tires got punctured because we had to go in a dirt track to reach the village. So what happened is we had to spend the night at Pansing Tomar's village, but that's
the difference. See, Preeti goes on these road journeys. I nicely used to stay when I used to travel that part. I used to come back to stay in the Gwalior Palace.
Imagine.
I
stayed in a shed. Alright, so we're going to leave it at that because there'll be lots more to talk about tourism, politics and otherwise. But that's it. We'll see you in our next episode of Chunaav ke Choudhary.